by enhancing the potential of individuals and institutions across the development sectors. We lead engages across four sectors: government, NGOs, corporates, and communities youths. Specially abled people face several issues, including accessibility, inclusion, and the inability to lead a barrier-free life. One of the ways in which a light can be thrown on these issues is by celebrating the amazing achievements of sunset of fantastic individuals from this group who have broken through the barriers and inspired not just people from their own group, but also all of us. This webinar is an attempt to bring some of these celebrities onto a platform where they can share their journey, their grit, determination, and the fire that burns within them that has made them into a role model for all of us. As we know, autism spectrum disorder is a broad range of conditions affecting on individuals' communication, behavior, social, and sensory skills. Yet they can lead an independent life along with considerable assistance. On the occasion of World Autism Awareness Month, today we have one such person who is facing autism boldly. He will share his exceptional journey of his life. Before that, I feel proud to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Pranav Bakshi. He is India's first fashion model with autism. He is the first individual in India to do 3 TEDx talks. He is an award-winning photographer and guest columnist with E-Magazine Newsbook. He is a music and fitness enthusiast, completed his internship with Thomson Reuters and presently working as associate digital producer. He has represented himself at many prestigious forums. He has been a keynote speaker at the ESEL initiatives on understanding autism at IIT Bombay. He addressed Microsoft Pan India on World Disability Day. He was featured by India Inclusion Summit 2020 and appreciated by humanitarian Sonu Sood for his self-funded project to help COVID affected. He was a panelist at India Autism at Work, hosted by Thomson Reuters. Because of his exceptional achievements, he has received extensive media coverage in India and abroad as well. Today, he is also accompanied by his mother Anupama, who is the backbone of his success. Hearty welcome to Pranav sir and Anupama ma'am. Welcome to you both, ma'am. Over to Ramesh sir.
Thank you, Mamta. I hope I'm audible. Today's conversation is going to be slightly different because we also have with us on this panel Dr. Jayashree, who will be part of the panel, who is also helping us moderate this session. And it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jayashree Shanbal, Professor in Language Pathology, Chairperson, Autism Spectrum Disorders Unit and Head Telecenter for Persons with Communication Disorders at the All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysore. Dr. Jayashree completed a graduation, post-graduation, and doctorate from the same institution. And she has been working in this field for 20 years now in the area of speech language pathology and has several research papers and publications to her credit. She is a much sought after speaker and resource person at national and international forums. She is also a recipient of several awards and recognitions. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the panel, Dr. Jayashree.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to add to today's conversation. Pranav, it's such a pleasure to meet with you and get to know you. Welcome, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you as our guest today. Let me start by asking you to talk to us about yourself. Just tell us about yourself.
I am Pranav Bakshi. I'm 21 years old. I'm a fashion model. I study graphic design. I'm an award-winning photographer. I click pictures in all series: silhouette series, cloud series, flower series, aeroplane series, and aeroplane series. I'm a guest columnist for an eMag. I decided to be a model in 2016, and I was introduced to modeling as an activity, and I fell in love with it. And when
Our video stopped. I'm so sorry. Start my video.
saying, I was introduced to modeling as an activity and I fell in love with it. When I came back, I saw models walking on the ramp on a big screen in a mall, and I wanted to be like them. I clicked pictures of the billboards and I sent them to my mom. And I said to mom that I wanted to be like them. Mom said to me that it's very difficult and you have to work very hard. And I said I will. And I modeled for US Polo Association, Benetton, and Big Bazaar, and also and I did Lakme Fashion Week, and it made me happy. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Pranav. I think that's a wonderful thing. In
And
fact, the second question was I was about to ask you how did modeling happen, but you already told us how that has happened. But I also want to know how much do you enjoy this? I mean, you do so many things. Photography is something that you're very interested in. You also write. You also walk the ramp. Modeling is
yes,
something that you
I
enjoy.
do it. I do.
Yes, and of all of these things, which is it that you love the most and why?
I like to model every day, and I will not retire.
There is
Always
no-
I'll do modeling,
Okay.
and
What about
and
your
I'll not
work?
stop.
What about your work?
And I'm an associate digital producer contractor at Thomson Reuters, and I'm working with Thomson Reuters after I interned.
wonderful. That's so wonderful to hear. And you should never retire. I mean, that's the spirit in which
Yeah.
you must do. Absolutely.
And
Are you going to retire from work?
I'm going to retire from work in 2060 when I'm 60 years old.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
But not from modeling?
Yeah, I will not retire modeling. I'll keep on doing modeling forever and ever.
Okay. This retirement is a good thing that has come up.
Yeah, retirement is also just a phase. So you can always come back and do other things. And could you also tell us something about a little bit about your interest in photography? What is it that you like to capture?
I like to capture like nature, and I like to
Right.
go for photo walks.
Oh, so what is a photo walk? If you could just tell us. I mean,
And
that's so
photo walk
interesting.
is where we go and
Mm.
click pictures.
Wonderful.
So we decide a place. In
Right.
fact, they are in Mysore. Mysore is beautiful, worth
Mm.
a photo walk. Yeah. So we even go outstation. So it's up to him. We reach the destination and then it's up to him to explore. So what he catches is sometimes distinct. Sometimes I think that he's missed something so, obviously beautiful, but then, he's focused on something that he wants. But eventually, I guess the pictures are unique and he does end up getting the awards. Again, it is a perspective, I think, right, Pranav?
Right.
He's self-taught and he doesn't like to be told what to click, right? You can tell them about your favorite series.
Yeah, and my favorite series is Silhouette series.
So Silhouette is not easy to click because you have to wait for the sun to go down. And so Pranav, if you'll allow me to say that he's very patient with Silhouettes because then he'll keep on waiting. The sun gradually goes down and then, because he doesn't know the tricks. Some people know tricks. So he's very organic in his approach and that it's the actual, your Silhouettes are good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Absolutely. And someday,
So you can tell them what you do as part of your work in Reuters. There also it's something related to photography.
I curate pictures for stories as part of my work.
okay. And
So-
these stories are for
And I chat with my colleagues, teammates.
right.
Yeah, so that is part of work. We chat with our colleagues and teammates. So when they have articles, so then there is a separate vertical for pictures and Pranav adds pictures to the stories. Yeah. And he
Yeah.
feels very good when after some time they appear on the website, all the pictures that he has added. So that's a sense of validation, which is very important for each one of us. Why just our children?
Absolutely. And these stories are for children or for everyone?
These stories are news. news
Right, news
items.
story.
So he covers US and UK. And so the source of the news is one, there's one source of news and there's one source for pictures. So he has to, because it's digital media, he has to add the pictures to the story. And I'm glad that organizations give so much, show so much trust, in all the individuals on the spectrum. At least, I've seen that with Pranav. He adds them and they're on the website. So that's very nice, because adding pictures to digital media is very critical. The picture actually
Yes.
conveys the story to the audience, more than anything else.
Yeah, it's
And that's what you love to do, right?
Yeah.
so what I'll do now is I'll come back to you, Pranav. I'll just go to Dr. Jayashree, and there's a little question that I want to
Yes,
take
yes,
up.
Mr. Ramesh.
It's one of the things that we've seen is that particularly in the last 2 decades, we've seen an increase in the cases of autism. And I was keen to know if it's, though it's still very significantly lower than the countries in the West, like the US, for example, or even Europe, for example. So is the rise in these cases a direct result of greater testing and therefore increased reporting, or is it something? Is there something that we're missing? Are we missing a lot more cases than we should be picking up?
Yes, I think that's a very appropriate question, and I'd like the audience to know about this. Am I audible? Am I clear?
Yes, you're very
Okay. So I'd like the audience to know about this, because if I ask Pranav's mom, when was Pranav identified to have this problem? When was he identified, Mrs.
He was
Bakshi?
identified at 2, ma'am.
2 years of age, and that's quite early to be identified.
Yes, ma'am.
And
So
I'll tell you, yeah,
there's a perspective, ma'am. Sorry, sorry for taking your time. I had a very theoretical idea of what autism is somehow. So when I was trying to fit in, there's another feature. There is so much of resistance from the people around you, because I was being told that it's a disadvantage when you think you know too much.
correct.
So
Yes,
that's
so
also what.
I appreciate that fact that as a mother, she was able to identify that child at 2 years of age, which was not really the scenario. Earlier, the rate of autism was almost probably, I would say, 1 in say 150 children. Okay, but if you see the current statistics, it's almost come down to 1 in 85, especially in the younger age group. This is the reports that we have from NIMHANS. This is between 3 to 6 years of age. That means it's not, I would not really call it as probably, the rate was higher or lower. I think it was more also to do with the awareness, and the acceptance of the condition. So when earlier, when surveys used to be done, you would not get the right information from the parents, and also because the parents never felt, or the people around the child never felt, that it was a condition to be addressed professionally, okay, or it needed some treatment, or it needed some intervention. So it just goes back to how people were aware of it. And the second aspect was, even though they were aware, there was no acceptance. So that's why you did not really see, that many were reported earlier. But let me try and tell you that now, yes, there is a hike, also because there are some standardized tools, also because a lot of parents are aware, they're very cautious about the changes that are happening with the child. And also because we are able to reach out and they are able to access our facilities. Okay, so these are some of the things that we have observed whenever we have done surveys, not just now, but also like 15 years back. There has been a big change in the prevalence rate of autism as well. So that's another thing that I want to say. Now, if you actually see, she said it was identified around 2 years of age. Ideally, the diagnostic tools that we have at around 2 years of age would not confirm, that the child has autism by 2, but it goes back to around close to 5 to 6 years. But I would still say that you can identify a lot of children who are at risk by this age. And most of them, trust me, the ones that we have done retrospective studies, we have found that the mothers have actually found these changes at 2 years of age itself. That's an age when you could already know that there is a child who's having certain traits of autism. Now, what are these traits of autism? maybe I should just quote and acknowledge one of my PhD candidates who submitted her report recently, called Lakshmi. She actually studied children between the age of 2 to 6 years of age. And she was very clear. She developed a predictive screening tool to find out whether a child could have autism or not, or he's moving towards a trend of autism or not by less than 2 years of age. Now, what are these some of the red flags, that she came across? One is social smile. Okay, social smile came out to be a very important, red flag, because social smile is something that comes within a week when the baby is born. Okay, so which means to say that the baby is actually, the moment it sees the mother, by that time itself, the baby is actually giving a social smile, a smile which it is not giving to other people. Okay, which means it's very meaningful. It's very happy because, when there's a baby, the basic need of a baby is sleep and food. Okay, that's all. Okay, only when a baby grows a little older, it will start playing. But the basic needs have to be met. And who's meeting the basic needs is the mother, right? So a baby knows that, when the mother is approaching, then there's something to be happy about, right? So the baby gives a social smile. So imagine I'm telling you all of this happening less than 1 month of age. So if the mothers are really observant, they can actually make out that there's something wrong, that the baby is just not seeking for, attention. The baby is not showing social smile. And the other thing is, a kind of different emotion. Just imagine, what would a baby do if it is hungry? It would cry, right? That's called a hunger cry. It would not simply cry. You know very well that a baby, it's more reflexive. When the baby is hungry, it has to cry. But after 1 month period, you will see that the baby, just to express, that I might need food, it will start crying. It's not reflexive. It is expressive. Now the baby is very voluntary. It's like trying to say, Mom, stop doing anything else. I'm just approaching my hunger. Okay, so it is voluntarily trying to tell you that I'm hungry, give me milk. Okay, so this is less than 2 months of period. Okay, so as in how you grow, you will also see that by 6 months, a baby has to start using babbling to actually communicate something. You might see the first thing, this is what we have observed around our environment. The baby is saying du 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 du. Du 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 is, dudu, which means milk. So this is happening around 6 months of period. It's quite early. And it is not simply coming out with some utterance. It is something meaningful that is happening. And by 1 year of age, they are supposed to actually start speaking a meaningful word. Call amma, ya ma to the mother only, and appa or pa to the father only. You understood what I'm trying to say. So I'm talking about the development that is happening less than 2 years of period. So if actually the mothers are observant, if they are sensitized to this, they can easily make out the characteristics as early as less than 2 years of age. Okay, so now that's the point that I'm trying to make in. Pranav is very lucky to have a very observant mother because, as she said, I think Pranav has a sister, right? Does she have he has a sister. I remember seeing one of the pictures, but I wasn't sure. Let me just confirm it. So I just asked you that. So it could also be because Pranav's mom has seen her development. Pranav's mom could relate the development to what was happening with Pranav. So she was quite observant. She watched how he was developing. She could make out the differences. But then she was also able to reach out to help and work it out. Okay, so that's how we are also seeing Pranav doing so good in his life, So this again goes back to the critical period of development. Pranav got his attention very early in his life. Generally, the critical period is 0 to 12 years of age. Okay, when your brain is very plastic, you can actually teach them as much as possible, train them, rehabilitate them to learn a lot. Okay, but the most crucial period within the critical period is 0 to 3 years. So I said 0 to 12 years is the critical period of development for the brain. 0 to 3 years is actually the most crucial period. And you can now correlate why I said that. He got all the attention within 3 years of age. And that's how his brain was all set to take in so many things. He's so multi-talented. He's able to, he has chosen his field. He's doing quite well in his field. So I hope I was clear in bringing out the connection between, identifying it as early as possible, as well as the critical period. Now, this is what is happening currently. We are creating a lot of awareness amongst the parents. The parents are getting sensitized. So it may not really be about the condition, but the prevalence is showing up also because there's a lot of awareness amongst, parents as well, and the caregivers. Ramesh, I hope I was, I
absolutely.
didn't take too much time, but
Not at
yeah,
all. Please feel free to be
Yeah.
elaborative in your answers. I think the point of this conversation is also to throw light on this, because we are also celebrating the Autism Awareness Month. I just a follow-up question on one aspect of what you mentioned. You said the ability, when children should be able to recognize, the father, and amma. So, as a layman, I'm looking at two aspects of this, and one is obviously the facial recognition part of it, and the second is the ability to articulate speech. So, are we saying that there are issues in both aspects of this in this?
No, when I meant they can say appa, amma by 1 year of age, I'm talking about speech, the production.
Right.
So they're already able to recognize,
Right.
the immediate family members less than 6 months of period itself. But the ones they will connect the most would be the mother. So recognition and comprehension is already happening, it's all there by 6 months of period itself. So what we should remember is, when a baby is born, the baby is already readied, with vision. The baby is ready with audition, that is hearing. Okay, the baby is ready with all the tactile sensations, so he can feel, so the first thing that the baby feels is the mother. Okay, probably the first voice that he hears is the mother. The first person the baby sees is the mother. So if you actually see in a lot of hospitals, when the baby is born, they ensure that the baby gets the warmth of the mother. It is kept very close to the mother. That's the whole intention, so that it can really bring out a bond. And it's not that, just that. So that is what happens in the first instance. But as in how, they have this immediate family environment, the next person is the father. So it's not that the baby doesn't recognize the father, but it does recognize but the first bond formation is with the mother. Comprehension of a lot of vocabulary, I would probably say around 50 to 60 words is all set by 1 year of age. They're able to comprehend around 50 to 60 words, but the production is still lagging. It has to appear by 1 year of age. So when I said appa, amma meaningfully, he's exactly saying appa, amma to the person he's supposed to say. Okay, otherwise, before that, what happens, you might see that the baby is just saying amma, amma to everybody, but he actually means appa also, but he's still not equipped with appa. And that's also to do with the articulatory physiology, how his oral structures have developed to actually say appa or any other word. Okay, so production, yes, by 1 year of age, it should be appearing.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just
want to, I'm sorry, I'm barging in. So ma'am, that is one of the indicators which parents can use, because I mean, you are the expert here. I'm just a mother with some background in language. So one of the indicators which was alarming for me is, that motherese, the language of the mother and the child, as they say, it wasn't extensive enough for me. So that was one of the indicators. Response to motherese, because that response is emotional and not
Correct.
Cognitive.
Correct.
It is cognitive, but it is by and large emotional. So
Yes.
that sometimes is missing, and maybe mothers can use that as a clue.
Absolutely. That's a very important point that you mentioned. So I'd like to tell you that, kids actually lack, especially kids with autism, they lack with socio-emotional development, and mother is loaded with emotions. You might, so let me just clarify what she meant by motherese. Motherese is something like, beta, kya chahiye aapko? It's not the normal way how we speak to the adults, right? So it's like, what do you want? Do you want to eat biscuits? So there's a different intonation pattern in this whole lot, emotion, it's loaded emotionally. Whereas, just imagine if I had to speak to Mr. Ramesh, I would say, Mr. Ramesh, would you like to have some biscuits? So you can make out the difference in the intonation pattern, right? The one that I spoke to Mr. Ramesh was more adult-like and it was more a stable pitch. Whereas if I had to talk to a baby, it would be more exaggerated and it would be more flowy, you know, it'll have a high and low pattern. So that's exactly what she's talking about. So this is a very important thing that the parents, especially the mothers, should remember that. So motherese doesn't mean only mothers. Okay, it just means the pattern that is used. So fathers can also use them. Both of them can use. It just means the change in the pattern. So please do use that with your kids. It is not a drama. It's not over exaggeration. What you're just trying to do is you're giving them an extra redundant cues, okay, so that from that they can pick up the emotions. You're just giving them a lot more emotions to that and trying to tell them that this is a model which is used for different patterns of communication. So for example, if I have to ask you a question, aaj khana khaya? Okay, did you have food today? So there's a pattern. Acha, aapko chapati achhe lagte hain? So you can see how the pattern is changing. Okay. Now it depends on how you are teaching this. This is going to be the model that they're going to follow. Okay. So motherese kind of communication is very essential. Mothers, please do that. You know, it's a very important part of speech stimulation for children. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's a very important intervention. I'm just going to come back to Pranav, you know, and ask him about the specific point you made about, you know, Pranav, I hear that you call autism your superpower. So could you tell us why you think it is your superpower?
My mom and my sister told me that all my favorite Marvel characters have superpowers.
Right.
Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man have superpowers. My superpower is autism, and it makes me deal with challenges, sort my anxieties, and do whatever I want to do. And autism is not a disease, it's a condition. I don't suffer from autism. It's my superpower.
Right. That's a very positive way and very nicely put. So
Basically, sir, when there's a lifelong situation, the
Right.
main thing is the narrative has to be positive. You can
Absolutely.
suffer from a situation, you can have a situation. I mean, that's what we as a family believe.
and
And we
I would like
build
to,
each other. Yeah.
yeah, sorry. And I'd like to pose the same question to you, Mrs. Bakshi, as well. How have you taken this? I mean, I can clearly see that you've you know, handled this beautifully, but I'm sure there must have been several points at which you know, and I think this would help several mothers also to come to terms with what they have to face. So if you could share some thoughts, throw some light on how you came to terms with this and how would you handle this across the
It was so
several
beautiful
years.
listening to Dr. Jayashree because I found validation to some points and I learned so much. First of all, mothers, we are lifelong learners. When I look back, I think of my mistakes more and then what my journey was. All I can say is that I rolled up my sleeves pretty early. I think the very day I got the diagnosis, I was all set, but I didn't know what to do because there is so much where to start, where to begin. I mean, what is the first thing I have to, I mean, I had noticed the language part, like I told ma'am, you know, I knew that, you know, there is this, because obviously there's regression and there's repetition as well. So I took up all the things one step at a time, very positively. For me, what is the most important thing, if you ask me, is the dignity of the person. Pranav is 21 and he's here. You can ask him. Every conversation I have with him is, can we do this? And sometimes I just get a very young adult reply, I'll think about it. So that does not mean that it's, right, Pranav?
Right.
Most of the time it's like, okay, I'll think about it.
Right.
He wants his space. He's already told me that he wants to live independently. You want to tell them until which year I'm allowed to live with you?
Till 2026.
That's all. He thinks by 26 he's sorted. After that he doesn't. So mothers, does that make me feel bad? Because, you know, like all of you, I've devoted my life to Pranav. That's something I celebrate. So work towards your child's independence, not dependence on you. Work with the thought that one day my little kid is going to be a young adult. What is my young adult going to do? Dr. Jayashree had raised a very important point earlier when I was talking to her. Every communication is important, verbal, gestures, cues, everything. Idea is you know what your child thinks. Don't keep looking for words. When a child is not talking, does not mean the child is not listening, right? Give your child respect, give your child dignity, like I already said. Also give your child choices. Many times people ask me, how did you make Pranav a model? Can I make him a model? It was his choice. I was worried, but I supported him wholeheartedly. So how will your child make a choice? When you give exposure. I thought my child is good in drama. I went all the way to Mumbai to a theater festival and we discovered modeling there. So it's not like important that you travel all over the place. I happen to do that because he likes to click pictures in various places. But identify the skills of the child. Don't impose a plan on the child. I mean, you get a plan. I mean, I know I've been in education and I've been in charge of IEPs for years in my experiences in schools till I moved to publishing. What is important is, okay, this is the child, this is the intrinsic skill of the child. Let me also keep that in mind, right? And a mother's every single development is important. Pranav listens to radio every single moment. If the radio is still playing, maybe you can't hear it. So in the middle of work, he and I would get up and start dancing and sit down. I'm not saying that you have to raise a rebel. You have to raise a child who knows his or her mind, who knows that his or her voice is important, and who knows that whatever he or she wants to do is very important, and celebrate moments like this. When he tells me he's very clear that he doesn't need me after 2026. So that's such a happy thing for me. In fact, that's my need to motivate him that, okay, whatever little you require your mother for, you get it sorted before 2026. We're already in 2022. Let them do what they want to do. Don't impose this is what I want from my child. And end of the day, I hope mothers, you'll understand when I say that it's not about you. It's about the child. Never think that, oh, I am suffering. Compare your so-called suffering with your child. If you say, I am suffering, I am so unhappy, then is your child's journey unhappy? If in that case, the child is the sufferer, then it's a journey. We are in it together. It's all about the child. We are the outside scaffolding with the thought that one day the scaffolding will move and the child who will be one day an adult will be on his or her own.
That's very well put. In fact, I think this in itself should help a lot of parents come to terms with how to deal with. I'm going to again make a segue and move to Dr. Jayashree and pose another question. We also we talk of genetic predisposition in terms of autism spectrum disorders, but we also have studies that talk about environmental pollutants, particularly phthalates from plastic and microparticulate matter in our atmosphere. Just wanted your thoughts on this and what is the
yes. I think that's a very common question. I would say that all the parents want to know. Why is my child like this? What is the cause? What did I do? That led the child become like this. And I'm sure Mrs. Anupama also would have had that question some point of time early in the life. But yeah, it's quite obvious to have that. But let me try and explain this to you. Ideally, a very definite cause of autism has not been determined yet. But yes, there are a lot of studies coming up from genetic predisposition. So there are genetic factors that could be responsible. So when I say genetic, it doesn't always mean hereditary. That is the difference that you should know. It doesn't mean that somebody in the family had. That is why it's been carried to Pranav. It need not be like that. Sometimes at a point of time, genetic mutations can happen. Okay. So what do you mean by genetic mutation is, it's possible that the environmental influences at times, very well, we have, one is our body, okay, which has basically the DNA is the basic component of that, which means that's your gene, right? Another thing is your environment. So when we are born with certain things. So our brain is coming and, it's developed, you have your hearing, your body is out. But the environmental factors can actually have an influence of how some of the physiology of your body can change because of this. I'm not talking exactly with respect to structure always, but it could also be the physiology. Okay, I'll just give you one instance of this. There is a place called Kasaragod, in the border of Karnataka and Kerala. So in this region, a lot of mothers who were exposed to toxic gases and toxic chemicals, it's not only to do with autism, but a lot of the children that were born either with cerebral palsy or intellectual disability or hearing impairment or autism spectrum disorders. Okay, so what I'm just trying to say is that it's possible that a pregnant mother being exposed to these harmful chemicals can actually have a fetus being affected because of that. Okay, and that's why, so this is one of the prenatal factors that they have identified. So I'm not saying that this is the cause only for autism, but it is a cause for a lot of neurodevelopmental conditions. Okay, so that's another thing. And the precautionary measures that the pregnant woman should take, when they're pregnant with the baby, especially medicines. A lot of mothers do not know that they have to take prescribed medicines from the doctors, especially during pregnancy. Medicines like antibiotics. Okay, they have in Western studies which talk about an alcoholic mother, a mother who's into alcoholism during pregnancy or smoking. These are all more risk factors. That means these can have an effect on the neurodevelopment. So I'm not trying to say that it will cause autism only, but it can lead to any neurodevelopmental condition in which autism might be one of them. Okay, so one is it could be a genetic predisposition. Again, I'm not talking about it as hereditary. Okay, another is some of the environmental factors that you're talking about. Now, what is the environmental factor which is not really the causal or the risk factor? I need to tell you about that. Earlier there was this whole concept about refrigerated mothers, as being causes for autism. Who are refrigerated mothers? They thought that these were mothers who never reciprocated to their children. They did not show emotions to the children. The reason might be anything. Sometimes mothers could have postpartum depression, because of which they always have this whole emotion that their state is not a good state because the baby is born. So this could be some of them. So earlier they thought that maybe because the mother is not very reciprocative, there are mothers like that, there are mothers, who do not really feel, that they take it as a burden more than a happiness, because there are so many responsibilities that come through. Everybody is not lucky to have a good family. Everybody is not lucky to have a good economic condition. So there are so many factors to that, wherein for them accepting that kid as in happiness in the family is not really happening. So these were called the refrigerated mothers before, but the concept is not so true, which means to say refrigerated mothers being like that is not the cause for autism. That is the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, somebody who's not giving speech stimulation doesn't make the child autism. Okay, I mean to say that just because the parents are not stimulating the child, it doesn't make them autism. But what I'm trying to say is, if the child already has autism and if you're not able to stimulate them, then the condition will be worse. Okay, now if you see, she was constantly, when she was addressing, she was constantly asking him, isn't it Pranav? Okay, did you see that? That's actually a stimulation. So, and he came out and he said that, yes, ma. Okay, so you could see that they are constantly communicating with each other. And not just that, she has a very good expression on her face, especially I'm talking about Anupama and Pranav's conversation. So when I say stimulation happens at a non-verbal level. It could be like your facial expressions or the gestures. So you can constantly see, actually I'm using gestures because it's below the camera, you're not able to see me. That is an alternative way of giving out more information to the other person. Okay, so you should use a lot of gestures, you should use a lot of facial expressions. probably a lot more with these children along with speech. Okay, so you know that you're not making them too dependent on the gestures. So if you actually observe, this is, this is also the study that we have done. We've observed the mothers who actually do not have enough nonverbal communication, or who themselves do not speak much. Okay, actually, they make their kids less stimulable to communication. You understood what I said? So, which means to say, kids who already have autism and who are not stimulated with these things can worsen their condition of social communication. Okay, so this is one aspect to that when autism has already occurred. But the main aspect that you asked is whether, there is a genetic predisposition. Yes, there could be, because there are a lot of research reports coming up like that. Even Aish has a human genetics lab. Here also we have had studies, we've identified genes for autism. Reports are published based on that. It may not be hereditary again, it could be a genetic mutation. A lot of environmental pollutants, as you said, toxic gases, chemicals, not all chemicals would affect, but toxic gases, chemicals of a high proportion, which are more, impacting the fetus because the mother is inhaling them or the mother is exposed to them. It's possible that the child can come out with some neurodevelopmental condition. Autism could be one of them. Okay, I hope I was clear in answering that. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions that have come up from the chat, and they're addressed to you, Anupamaji. So I'll ask you them. One is, it says, good to see you and listen to you. I think the specific question is, how did you stop prompting either orally or physically and have allowed, Pranav to be independent? I ask this question because most of the time I feel that I act as a mouthpiece for my son. Would you like to?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I think the question specifically is asking that the person Dr. Sindhu is asking is, it's how did you stop prompting either orally or physically and have managed to make Pranav live independently? Okay. I asked, and she further adds to that saying, I asked this question because most of the time I feel that I act as a mouthpiece of my son, which I
Okay. So first of all, ma'am, I'm a fellow learner like you, but I can just share what worked with me. What I've seen is sometimes, ma'am, you would know, sometimes speech pathologists, they tell you that let your child ask for a thing. So I have actually been witness to battles, you ask for the water and then you get it. It's like, it becomes a kind of tussle. So when I say mouthpiece, I have been more of a prompter, led Pranav to situations, helped him mouth the words. And if he's not able to do it, I would tell him, I'll tell you what you're trying to say. So what I did, ma'am, I was talking constantly 24/7. And also you have to have thick skin. I also heard around me that she's probably gone mad because she's talking day in and day out. So I was constantly doing a commentary on what Pranav was doing. When I did the commentary, it was not complex sentences with adverbial phrases. I was speaking simple words, phrases, sentences, which I was hoping Pranav to pick up. If we was picking up something, I would say, oh, Pranav, you're picking that up. You're clicking a picture, you're sitting down. So because I felt that at least the passive vocabulary is being built. He's connecting words to situations, contextual language, which we use in certain contexts. I was hoping to build that. Then when he spoke, I appreciated him a lot. And then from there, when I took him to sentences, sometimes it was even tabletop. I drew a lot. I made a lot of sentence cards. My being a Montessorian also helped, I immediately did a Montessori training because I thought I need to build on my, whatever linguistic background I have. And I felt that was good. So systematically, I approached syntax, that is the structure of a sentence, ma'am would know, and semantics, which is the meaning. And it was pretty systematic, but it did not come across as that to Pranav. It came across to Pranav as something casual. I would draw stories, speak them. So to addressing your question of mouthpiece, it is because you are predicting what he wants to say and then you are saying it for him. So maybe it can be, I'm not really an expert, ma'am is an expert here. Maybe you can meet halfway, even if he says one syllable, even if he says one word, he is appreciated so much that he can, he can feel, motivated to do that more. When Pranav grew up a little more, I would have my vocabulary list. It was that focused. I would probably think that these are the 12 words I want Pranav to incorporate in his vocabulary. I didn't want him to learn the words, and then I would build contexts and stories around them. So they would be social stories. So Pranav picked up those words. I work in the publishing industry. I'm supposed to be good at copy editing. Pranav, he picks up such mistakes in what I, yesterday I printed something and he ticked me off or two, spelling error, although it was a typing error. So that was very systematic. Now those words were not selected because they were Shakespearean or because they were fancy. Those words were picked up because they were usage friendly, that would help Pranav to express his needs, his emotions. And I always say with Pranav and I, social stories worked a lot. So it was a mix, because social story became very interesting. And we had a parallel world where there was a family of 4 and they did a lot of things. And I built conversations around it. So Pranav could learn about them, apply. So that is when he grew up. That's when he was 8 or 9. But before that, if you're his mouthpiece, it's all right. Celebrate even one syllable, because one syllable will one day become a lot of talk. And you have to, patiently, not wait for that day, work for that day. And of course, follow your speech pathologist to the T. If I got homework, I would overdo that, because I felt that, and also I never felt that I know, I would always look for advice and I would always build on my own. And end of the day, we know our child, so we know how and in what manner a child can learn. Long answer. I hope I could help you.
Yeah, that's something that I want to add on, Mr. Ramesh, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
See, this is exactly what I was trying to, I was waiting for her to say. It's fine if you're a mouthpiece, okay? Why I'm saying this is, even to the typical children, we do this, okay? I'm sure the parents who've had typical children would also appreciate, you discuss this with your, your peers or your friends, we do that, it's not that all children know what to speak and how to speak, when to speak, right? Even from a very basic thing, there are times when we say, please say hello to auntie. You can't go off like that. Please say bye to auntie. Okay. Don't we do this? All of us do this. Okay. So why not with these children? No child comes out so perfect. Okay. And we don't want them to be perfect. Okay. We just want them to communicate, use communication for the purpose of communication. Sometimes not communicating is also a bliss. Okay. Remember that, which a lot of us don't understand. And these kids do understand that. Okay. It's fine if they don't communicate. It's fine if you are facilitating them to become a mouthpiece for them and communicate. It's acceptance. That's it. If your child is like this, if your child has special abilities, just be happy and focused on the abilities that they have. Sometimes people think that I'm just, it's more like coming out with some philosophy. No, it's the fact. That's exactly what we do. The moment you ask, and let me tell you one incident that happened yesterday. We actually screened a movie on autism called Varna Patala, Kannada movie at our institute for parents, not only for parents of autism, but other developmental disabilities. And we had nearly 250 people in the hall, okay, which means 250 and their kids. So we had 250 kids in the hall with 250 parents. And we never for a moment felt that these kids were disturbing us for the movie. We watched the complete movie. Everybody watched, everybody connected with the movie. And I would not call it as tolerate. It is acceptance. Okay. Don't use the word tolerate. It somehow feels a very negative connotation, but just accept it. Everything is going to be normal. Why not accept this and feel good about it? But there are so many things that you can be proud of. No, just think about that. That's it. I'm telling you this again and again as a communication therapist, as a speech pathologist. As she said, you don't want your child to be talking about rocket science, if you know that is not in his life. You got what I said, So you ask me anything about speech pathology, I'm here to answer. But if you ask me anything about what an astronaut does, you ask me about Captain America, I don't know. Whereas Pranav knows it much better than me, right? So this is exactly, that doesn't make me less important in this life, nor it makes somebody else more important in this life. We just have our own areas. We are experts in our own areas. We are enjoying our own work. We are just, we are just big survivors who have to be happy in this life. That's what matters at the end of the day. If you're supporting also, that's what I'm saying. If you're supporting, see how much support he requires. You don't have to bombard him with support. This is what decision you have to make. Just imagine that your child is sitting in front of the TV, and a cup of water, a glass of water is kept just 2 feet away, and he's sitting and watching the movie, and he says, "Mama, get me the water." And the child is all fine. Now, what should you do that time? Do you want to go and give him the water? Or do you expect that the child has to go to the water and get it by himself, because he's not doing anything else? So you should know where you have to give, how much support you have to give. So that's what she's saying. Don't make him too dependent. Okay. So you have to gradually identify how much support he requires and give him that much support only. That's called as scaffolding. Okay. Parents' support is required, or somebody who knows it better, their support is required. But how much support is required or to be given, this is a decision that you have to make based on the child. So don't, make him so dependent on you. Gradually reduce that. Okay, this is what I'm just trying to tell. Yeah.
There's one other question from the chat from Professor Srinivas Murthy. Specifically, he's interested in knowing where do you find the positivity and specifically the purpose and meaning in all of this, and how did you find that? Did you get the question?
Sorry, sir. Will you repeat?
No, this is a question from Professor Srinivas Murthy, where he says, no, one question is addressed to you, where he asks, where do you, how do you find the positivity in all of this, and the meaning and purpose in all of this? How did you find that? And because he sees that you're very positive, so how did you find that? Is there something?
Absolutely. Okay. So since ma'am was talking of a lot of genetic, I'll share something rather personal, which I generally don't share. So Pranav is my third child. I lost my second child, who happened to be a son, to a very rare genetic disorder called Williams syndrome. So of course, it takes years to be able to talk about it like I'm doing. So when Pranav was going to be born, every month there used to be fetal echoes to check his heart is fine. So the moment he was born, his heart was checked and he was fine, and there was celebration. And 2 years later, he was diagnosed with autism. So my personal thing with you is, my first question was, okay, he has autism, but he can live, So that stems from a bit of a personal thing. But otherwise, had that not happened also, I had a situation in hand. I had an older daughter. My life wasn't easy otherwise also. It's not that, like they say, you have a village to raise a child. I never had that village. I had to be that village as well. So you have two options. One is to regret and wallow in self-pity, right? And I'm not saying there aren't, if I would say that all your moments are highs, that's also a very unnatural situation I'm predicting to you. There are lows, but after lows, it's only high, right? Eventually, it is not about us. That's what makes us positive. The day you feel, oh my God, this is too much, think of your child who wants to talk, who wants his own place under the sun, your daughter who has her own life to lead. Maybe he or she, Pranav tells me of so many incidents. I rushed him to a hospital. I thought he's hurt in the back. And Pranav, where were you hurt?
Stomach.
Yeah. Imagine the helplessness of the child. So I'm lucky Pranav tells me now, but this situation happens. So we have to, first of all, so of course I'm religious and, I believe in, your karma philosophy and all that, but, that does not come here. What comes here is, this is a lifelong thing, right? Till you are alive, you have your child or individual or young adult with you. You have to do your best. Do it with a happy face. You will feel rewarded. And you don't do it for reward anyway, right? You will feel happy. Also, little things are to be celebrated. Those little things will become a big picture one day. And each journey is different. What Sterling, for me, when Pranav was toilet trained, Pranav remembers how excited boy was. I actually did a jig, actually did a Punjabi dance. Pranav remembers that, So I'm just saying that because now at 21, I have so many achievements to talk of. But when Pranav was toilet trained, it was an amazing feeling how I did it, So celebrate each thing. It's only positivity that will help you because your child is reading your face all the time. And if you are upset, you are unhappy, it will reflect on your child. And your child also has siblings. The siblings will not feel good about it. You can be a very, of course, if you ask me, our house was completely structured according to it. Our life still is, like Pranav and I lead very structured, rather unnatural lives, which is absolutely fine with me. And in society, sometimes people think, oh, he or she is an oddball, doesn't come for weddings, doesn't come for this, doesn't socialize, doesn't take calls. It's our journey. I do not, sometimes I take it philosophically that, all right, God knows what I'm doing, why I don't have time to chat and call people over for dinner or, do all this, because for me, this is so frivolous, because for me, I have my own priorities. So accept that your journey will be different, accept that people might find you odd, accept a little bit of thick skin also doesn't, it goes a long way. It's all right. And have faith, not in yourself, but with the child, because you will manifest so many things positively and they will happen. That is what I believe.
Absolutely. I think we are almost out of time, but I'll still squeeze in one question because there was a second part to this question. Then I'll also have a question for Dr. Jayashree after that. The thing is, I think the Dr. Murthy also wanted to know, and the question was actually to Pranav, after 2026, when he's going to be on his own, has he planned for all the...
oh my God, Pranav, tell them your plans. What you're going to do now? He has all the plans.
I'm going to save money for my dream house in Mumbai.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Thanks. And I'm going to first save money for my iPhone.
So these are the plans.
Right.
So, the house costs crores. He wants to, where do you want to live? Tell them in detail.
Yeah.
In South Mumbai.
I want to live in my dream new luxurious mansion house in South Mumbai.
Wonderful.
So I never tell him, don't think of these fancy things. I tell him, all right, this is how much it costs. You're earning in thousands. Save your money and do it. So he actually literally saves pennies. And that makes me happy because that's how it is. I don't feel that thing that, all right, I'm also earning. I need to give. I want to gift my son to an iPhone because he asks for it. No, let him earn it. So that's the sequel to 2026. He'll work hard.
Yes, I will.
And you can tell them more things about after 2026, what you're going to do.
Yeah. And after 2026, I'm going to enjoy the road trip from Mumbai to Goa.
Okay.
And I'm going to enjoy the Qantas flight from Mumbai to Sydney. And
Wow.
Dil Chahta Hai is my favorite 2001 Hindi language coming of age movie.
Yeah.
They don't know why.
And Dil Chahta Hai was shot in 3 of my favorite cities, Mumbai, Goa, and Sydney. And I watched it on Netflix. Dil Chahta Hai.
So they're talking about 2026 plans, and maybe I think you told me that you want to have a girlfriend also.
Yeah, I can have a girlfriend.
And in Mumbai, not here.
Yeah, in Mumbai. Also my pet dog in Mumbai.
Okay, pet dog also. Yeah, everything in Mumbai. Yeah, and so parents, there are two things you can say. No, we live in New Delhi. You have a job. You can't go. So I've put all the I've made all the difficulties clear. And, you know, all of us don't succeed in what we do. It's
I
also
only decided Mumbai, not Delhi.
Right.
then you work for it.
All right. I
So,
only decided to work for Mumbai.
Yeah, that's good because
My
I
great
think
opinion way.
he's looking forward to his modeling career, and you know, I'm
Yeah.
sure he'll do very good there. So he has
Well-
plans. I can see that behind the whole idea, right, Pranav? Yeah, yeah.
but it's but you make children mindful of the reality. That's important, you know. So that's why I always bring in the money factor also, whether it's an iPhone which he is eyeing for a long time or moving to Mumbai.
Yeah, my favorite city. And
Yeah.
I'm going to just shift to Mumbai as early as possible.
Okay.
And
After I visit my sister in Sydney.
right. And you should know, Pranav, that's wonderful. And you should know that, you know, dreams have a strange way of actually coming true. And wish you the very best. Hope your dreams actually all
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
play true. I'll ask one last question because this was part of the questions that we wanted. Because and this is for Dr. Jayashree. You know, autism also seems to be very hard on people from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds, and it's not that they don't suffer from this disorder.
Yeah, it's not true that we don't suffer from autism. It's a
Right.
superpower.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but for some people it's not. So
Yeah.
she's going to answer that. All right.
And so, how are we addressing this particular issue, particularly for people from that socioeconomic backgrounds?
Yes, see, one thing is, like he said, why I can totally relate why he's saying superpower. Actually, a lot of children with autism have a lot of things to celebrate about. They have something called as savant skills, many of them actually, unless and until they're associated with intellectual disabilities, the scenario is a little different. But if we are talking only about autism, then I think you could always kind of evaluate their savant skills, find out what their savant skills are, and then train them based on that. So when it just comes to you know, parents who are probably in the lower socioeconomic status, who are not very sensitized to what autism is, I think I would definitely recommend all of you to visit AISH once. Okay, the All India Institute of Speech and Hearing. I'm not really you know, kind of propagating about the institute, but I'm just trying to tell you that this is an institute which is not really a very profit oriented institute. It's more a service oriented. We are under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. We're fully funded by them. So the only mission that we have is service. And most of them who come to us are in the, I would probably call around 70 to 75% of them are under the lower socioeconomic status. So if you see, the zeal is absolutely very similar to what, you know, Mrs. Anupama has, you know, and especially also because they already know what is the direction. You know, they know we make curriculum for them. We start off with the preparation for them to the preschool. That means to say speech therapy is given, occupational therapy is given, behavioral therapy is given. And then there is entry into the schooling. Okay, so before they enter into schooling, we actually prepare them for that. We ready them for that. And time is not really the constraint for us, you know, and this is what all the parents should remember. It will take some time because they're not typically developing, but it's not that they cannot pick up the skills. They definitely can pick up the skills if they are coming to us as early as possible. So I guess we are also doing a lot of sensitization programs like this. In fact, you know, we had closer to around 90% of the children who are mainstreamed into education. Okay, which also includes children with autism. They are now into inclusive education. So that's a big boost to us also, that, yeah, you know, these kids, and I'm talking about all, not the parents who are, you know, affluent or on the higher socioeconomic status. I'm talking about the ones who are in the lower socioeconomic status only. So yeah, I think the mantra is very similar to both of them, but the way we are going to tackle or we are going to manage the other aspects that are related to the economic is going to be little different, because we have a medical social worker who helps us do that, and it's definitely possible. It's not that somebody who is in the lower socioeconomic status found it very difficult to access the facility, so they're not taking therapy. No, I would definitely not put the economic status as one of the major factors not availing or accessing to services. It's happening in both the strata very well, and I'm sure it's all about how we are reaching out to these people, okay, and how they are reaching out to us, both ways, mutually. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that is, on that positive note, it's, I think, perhaps time for us to wind this conversation down. I know that 1 hour is insufficient to discuss a topic as vast as this, or to include all of the questions that have come up, but we will try to answer. I think some of the questions can also be answered offline, and you could send a mail us at as well, and we will. And Pranav, wish you all the very best, and hope to see you in Bombay, and
Thanks.
being a fashion model, and
Yes,
you know,
thanks.
in South Mumbai.
So this is how we can utilize obsessions and focus. Did you see, parents? So autism sometimes, you have, so I sometimes see that this is like a strong focus or obsession. If it's taking you in the good direction, nothing like it. I mean, when we are focused or obsessed, then we fulfill our dreams. I look at it sometimes this way. And thank you so much for having us over.
It's been our pleasure, and thank you, Dr. Jayashree, as well, for.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Dr.
Thank you.
Jayashree.
Thank you,
Learned so much
Anupama.
from you. Thank
Same
you.
here, same here. Thank you, Pranav, and wish you all the best.
Thanks.
I will reach out to you when I see you, on the big screen. And I would say one day that, yes, I know I was on the platform with this handsome looking
you, ma'am.
young man. Yeah, so wish you all the best, and to your family, and congratulations once again. It's the right
Thanks,
path
Thanks.
that they're leading you to. Thanks to Mr. Ramesh and the team of SVYM, Mamata as well. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks, Mr. Ramesh. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks, Mamata. I mean, she has really organized.
Thanks, Ramesh. And also thanks, Jayashree, and also thanks, Mamita.
So thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming, and we hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.